You're sitting in a cold courtroom in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You're wearing the same faded suit from the night they took you away. The air smells like mildew and betrayal. Across the room, your wife, the woman who once said she'd die for you. Now, she's on the witness stand, swearing you're a drug dealer. And the jury believes her. You know she planted those pills. You know she called the cops. You know her lover, a woman named Kenya, helped her bury you alive. But this isn't the end of your story. It's the moment your life splits in two. Before it all fell apart, Malik Carter was a youth mentor in Baton Rouge. He spent his days coaching at-risk teens at the local rec center, hosting pickup games, tutoring kids who'd fallen behind. At just 27, he had already turned his own troubled past into a platform for second chances. The city respected him, the streets loved him, and he loved one woman, Vanessa, a 29-year-old nurse with a quiet voice and secrets buried deep. They'd met at a blood drive and fell fast. Within a year, they were married, but marriage revealed cracks in the foundation, late nights, turned backs in bed, laughter replaced with silence. And behind that silence was a woman named Kenya Rowe. Tall, charismatic, unfiltered. Kenya didn't like Malik, didn't trust him, and the feeling was mutual. But Malik never thought she'd be the reason he'd spend the next 14 years behind bars. Malik Carter didn't come from privilege. He came from South Baton Rouge, raised by a single mom who worked double shifts at the Oxnard Hospital and still managed to make it to Sunday service every week. When Malik was 18, he got caught with a dime bag and 2 unprescribed Xanax pills, just enough to label him a statistic. He served 6 months, came home, and made a decision. He was never going back. He stuck to it. He enrolled in community college, earned a certificate in youth outreach, and by 23 he was running summer leagues and mentorship programs. The streets whispered about him. That boy changed. He didn't brag, didn't flex, drove a beat-up Impala with 3 different colored doors and wore the same scuffed Jordans every day. But he had presence. That rare mix of humility and strength that made kids and adults listen. That's the Malik Vanessa met. She was giving free blood pressure screenings at a wellness event at the rec center. He joked that she was the only nurse who made his heart skip on purpose. She laughed for real. They exchanged numbers. The rest, as they say, happened quick. Vanessa moved in 3 months later. By the 6th month, they were married. No wedding gown, no DJ, just vows whispered under a courthouse roof with Malik's cousin and her auntie as witnesses. It felt right, simple, sacred, but simplicity doesn't protect you from secrets. Within a year, something in Vanessa shifted. She stopped laughing, stopped talking, came home late and claimed she was picking up doubles. Her phone never left her side. She started sleeping with her back to Malik. He asked what was wrong. She said she was tired. He offered to cook more, clean more, hold her longer. She said she needed space. He gave it. Then came Kenya. Kenya Rowe was loud, gorgeous, a trauma nurse who knew how to command a room. She had tattoos, gold hoops, and a swagger that said she'd fought harder battles than heartbreak. Malik didn't like her from the start, said she talked slick and looked at him sideways. Vanessa told him he was being paranoid. But then came the weird hours, the unexplained nights out. Vanessa started saying she was at Kenya's. Sometimes she'd be gone all weekend. Malik, not the jealous type, started asking questions. You and Kenya got something going on? Vanessa froze, blinked. What? That's ridiculous. I'm asking you a question. You're suffocating me, Malik. That shut him up, for a while. But he knew. He felt it. That love wasn't just dying, it was being replaced. And what he didn't know was that Kenya didn't just want Vanessa. She wanted Vanessa free, and she had a plan to make that happen. Malik started noticing things, little things, quiet things. Vanessa's phone always on silent, her habit of stepping outside to take calls, the way she never left her purse unattended. She wasn't clumsy with her lies, she was calculated. Too smooth, too calm. One Friday night, Malik stopped by her job with takeout. It was nearly midnight. She wasn't there. One of the nurses told him she'd clocked out hours ago. When she finally got home, at 3 a.m., she said she was with Kenya, helping her deal with a family emergency. She didn't even ask about the food. It got worse. On Sundays, the one day they used to go to church together, Vanessa started skipping service altogether. Said she needed to rest, but her clothes would be laid out, her makeup bag freshly used. Malik never said anything. He just watched. Then came the night he found the wine glass, lipstick on the rim, in the sink, when she'd claimed she had a migraine and gone straight to bed. The kind of detail that feels like a needle in your chest. Kenya became a fixture, always around, always touching Vanessa in subtle ways, shoulders, hands, lingering looks. Malik kept it inside, but he felt like a ghost in his own home. He confided in his friend Jamal, who worked with him at the wreck. Jamal didn't mince words. "That woman don't respect you, bro. She don't fear losing you. That's dangerous." Malik wasn't trying to control her. He just wanted his wife back. But what he didn't realize was, Vanessa didn't want to come back. Kenya had gotten into her ear, told her she didn't have to live this lie. Told her freedom didn't have to come with shame. One night, Malik walked into the living room and caught Vanessa whispering into her phone. When she noticed him, she jumped like he'd caught her cheating, which, in a way, he had. She clutched her phone and hurried into the bedroom. That's when Malik stopped asking questions. Not because he believed her, but because he didn't like the answers he was starting to find on his own. And somewhere, in the silence between them, a plan was forming, not in Malik's head, but in Vanessa's, and in Kenya's. A plan to make Malik disappear without ever laying a finger on him. It was a Thursday, rainy, gray, the kind of day where time feels slow and heavy. Malik had taken the afternoon off from the rec center. The plan was to rest, maybe catch up on laundry. Instead, he found himself cleaning out the trunk of his car, a chore he'd put off for months. Under old flyers and a half-deflated basketball, he saw it. A small black pouch, sealed tight with electrical tape, wedged beneath the trunk liner near the spare tire. He froze, picked it up slowly like it might explode. He didn't have to open it. The weight, the size, the faint chemical smell. He knew. Drugs. He stumbled back from the car, the pouch in his hand, looked around the apartment lot like someone might be watching. His mind raced. Had someone stashed it without him knowing? But who had access? The only other person with a key was Vanessa. He took it inside, set it on the kitchen table like it might testify. Then he waited. She came home around 6, dropped her keys in the bowl like nothing was wrong. Then she saw it. Her face didn't flinch. "What's that?" she asked flatly. "You tell me." She paused, long enough to make the air feel electric. Then she sat down across from him. Not scared, not panicked, just tired. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said quietly. Malik stared at her, jaw clenched. "You trying to put me away?" "I was trying to get free," she said. "There's a difference." He didn't respond. Couldn't. He watched her sit there, his wife, the woman he once loved so deeply. Talking like this was just a hard conversation, not a betrayal. That night, Malik didn't sleep. He lay awake, eyes on the ceiling, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the silence between them. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. A week after Malik found the pouch, everything unraveled. He didn't tell anyone, not Jamal, not his aunt, not even his lawyer friend from college who owed him a favor. He was too afraid of what it meant, too afraid that saying it out loud would make it real. So he buried it in a shoebox, wrapped in a t-shirt, sealed in plastic, and tucked it in the back of their closet behind a stack of storage bins. Vanessa didn't ask where it went. She never mentioned it at all. That silence said everything. He debated turning it in anonymously. He even drove halfway to the police station one night, but turned around. Because deep down, he knew the moment he admitted the drugs existed, they'd pin them on him. The system wouldn't ask questions. It never had. So he stayed quiet. And that's what cost him everything. It happened on a Monday afternoon. Malik had just finished his shift at the wreck. He was tired, still wearing his blue staff t-shirt, his gym bag tossed in the back seat. He was thinking about dinner, about texting Vanessa, just to test if she'd respond. But before he could, red and blue lights flashed behind him on Florida Boulevard. No siren, just a slow, creeping stop. He pulled over calmly, checked his mirrors. No speeding, no tags expired. It made no sense. 2 officers approached, both white, both with that stiff, rehearsed look. "Step out of the vehicle, sir." "Everything all right?" he asked. "We received a tip. We're going to search the car." "A tip? From who?" "Step out of the car, sir." Malik stepped out, hands up. He leaned against the hood, heart pounding, trying to stay calm. One officer opened the trunk. The other rummaged through his gym bag. Seconds later, he heard it. "Got it." He turned to see one of them holding up a plastic pouch, taped, sealed. His vision tunneled. His breath caught in his chest. "That's not mine." The officer didn't even blink. "You're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute." "I don't know where that came from." "You have the right to remain silent." The cuffs locked tight around his wrists. Cold metal. No explanation, just routine, as if they'd done this 100 times before. Then across the street, a black sedan. Parked. Engine running. Kenya was in the passenger seat. She didn't flinch, didn't hide, just watched, calm, confident, like she was already celebrating. And in that moment, Malik knew. She was in on it. She had the spare key. She had access. She planted it. He could see the whole scene now, her slipping into the car when no one was looking, tucking the pouch into his bag, closing it with quiet fingers. The next morning, Vanessa showed up at the station in scrubs and faked tears. She told the detectives Malik had been acting strange, said she found pills in his drawer weeks ago, claimed he'd changed, said she was afraid. She told them she wanted to help him get better. They offered her a deal. Testify. Cooperate. Keep your name clean. She took it without blinking. The story she gave them was neat, wrapped in sympathy, made for courtroom fiction. She said she loved him, that she'd tried to support him, that he'd spiraled back into dealing. Malik watched it all from behind glass. He didn't yell, didn't cry. But inside, something cracked. His trial date was set for 6 months out. No bail, no options, just a cage and time. And as news spread, silence became its kind of verdict. Friends stopped calling. Neighbors stopped looking him in the eye. The community he served turned cold. Only Jamal showed up with a note. "I believe you. Hold tight." But even belief felt small now, because the people closest to him, the ones he should have trusted, had already sentenced him before the court ever did. The first week in East Feliciana Parish Jail moved like syrup, slow, thick, and hard to breathe in. The mattress was plastic. The air smelled like bleach and sweat. Malik barely spoke. He sat through orientation, ate in silence, and slept in short bursts, the kind of sleep that didn't rest you, just numbed you. At night, he stared at the ceiling, hearing other men weep through the walls. Some prayed, some cursed. Malik did neither. He just kept seeing Vanessa's face, soft, tearful, like she actually believed what she was saying. And behind her, always in the background, stood Kenya, arms folded, unbothered, triumphant. Betrayal didn't feel loud, it felt quiet, cold, like standing barefoot on concrete. His public defender, Miss Johnson, was sharp and aggressive. She didn't mince words. They got hearsay, circumstantial evidence, and one clean narrative. That's it, she told him. No fingerprints on the drugs, no cash, no text messages, just her word. Malik sat across from her, chained at the ankles. And that's all they need. In his mind, he kept rewinding. Not just the day of the arrest, but months before. The moments when things shifted and he ignored it. The days Vanessa came home late. The laughter on the other side of the bathroom door. The wine glass with lipstick on a night she claimed a migraine. All of it played now like scenes in a film he hadn't realized he was in. Back on the block, rumors spread quick. Some folks said they always knew he'd slip. Others defended him, said it didn't add up. Jamal, his right hand at the rec center, dropped off a letter. "You got people who believe in you. Don't forget that." But belief wasn't armor. Malik still woke up in a cage. Then came the rumor that lit a fire in his chest. A CO from Scotlandville leaned in one morning during movement. "You ain't hear it from me, but your girl, she ain't crying too hard. Word is she and that other nurse, the one with the long braids, they got a little place now, over in Mid-City." Malik blinked, swallowed. "You mean Kenya?" The CO gave a slow nod. "Yep, moved in real quick. Too quick, if you ask me." Malik didn't react, not right away, but that night he didn't sit in the corner like usual. He paced, back and forth, slow at first, then faster, not angry, just focused. And then came Vanessa's deposition. Miss Johnson brought it during their next visit. It was neat, clean, practiced. Vanessa said Malik had changed, that he was unstable, that she feared for her safety. Then at the bottom, typed in bold, anonymous tip submitted via encrypted phone message. "You recognize the number?" Miss Johnson asked. Malik didn't even have to read it. "It's Kenya." That was the final piece. Everything locked into place. And just like that, survival stopped being enough. Malik wasn't looking for sympathy anymore. He wanted the truth. Malik sat in jail for 9 long months before his trial date. Not one of those days felt wasted. While most men on the block waited in limbo, Malik was building a case of his own, brick by brick, truth by truth. He became a student of the system that locked him up. In the dusty little jail library, he pored over books on criminal procedure, wrongful convictions, and chain of custody laws. He read old cases, studied how dirty setups had fallen apart, learned how to poke holes, how to cast doubt, and he took notes, pages of them, every odd moment, every timeline, every shift in Vanessa's behavior. He mapped it all out like a detective chasing his own ghost. He didn't just want to survive this trial, he wanted to drag the truth into the light. Miss Johnson, his public defender, was sharp and skeptical, but she saw something in Malik. "You've got the bones of a defense," she told him. "Now we need the skin, the muscle, the face, proof." Malik started calling in quiet favors. He wrote to Jamal, his friend at the rec center, and asked him to dig, check who Vanessa had been hanging with, find out if Kenya had ever been in trouble. That's when things got interesting. Kenya Rowe had a past, not one filled with charges, but with whispers. 2 years prior, while working at an urgent care facility, she was internally investigated for manipulating patient records. Missing pills, phantom prescriptions. No charges were filed, but the audit led to her resignation. She reappeared 6 months later at a hospital in Baton Rouge, Vanessa's hospital. Malik passed everything to Ms. Johnson. She leaned in. "If she's the one who planted it, we need her fingerprints on something, or at least a crack in the story." They didn't get prints, but they got a voice. Jamal connected with Rochelle, a nurse who used to work with Vanessa and Kenya. She remembered the shift, the gossip, the late breaks, the hallway touches. She also remembered a strange night when Vanessa showed up crying, saying she couldn't go home, said Malik had scared her. But later that same week, she saw Vanessa and Kenya laughing in the break room like nothing ever happened. "She was lying," Rochelle said in a recorded call. It felt rehearsed. Rochelle agreed to write a statement. It was the first dent in Vanessa's credibility. Then came the phone records. Ms. Johnson filed for a subpoena. It took weeks of back and forth, but eventually they got partial logs. The results were damning. Dozens, hundreds of late-night messages between Kenya and Vanessa in the days leading up to Malik's arrest. Midnight calls, mid-shift texts. One string of messages time-stamped just an hour before the anonymous tip was sent to police. That anonymous tip? It was traced to a burner phone purchased at a gas station in Lafayette, Louisiana. Malik's PI tracked it using the prepaid card that bought it, registered under a fake name, but tied to an email account that had one identifying recovery link, a hospital personnel account, linked to Kenya Rowe. Ms. Johnson nearly dropped the file in her lap. "We've got her," she whispered. But it didn't stop there. Security footage from a gas station 2 blocks from Malik's apartment showed Kenya walking up to Malik's Impala. She wasn't supposed to have a key, but she opened the driver's side door with ease. Minutes later, she popped the trunk. She had a spare, Malik confirmed. Vanessa must have given it to her. That footage didn't show her placing anything, but it showed access, motive, intent. Ms. Johnson filed a motion to introduce the evidence. The prosecution fought back hard. They said it was circumstantial, speculative, but the judge allowed portions of it, enough to create doubt. Kenya was called in for questioning. She denied everything, said she didn't even know Malik that well, said she had no access to his vehicle. But under pressure, her story shifted. When asked if she had ever been in Malik's car, she said once, months ago, then again, maybe more recently. Her lawyer advised her to stop speaking. Vanessa, when confronted with the new timeline and the burner phone evidence, said she had nothing to do with it. "I never wanted to hurt him," she said. "I was scared." The prosecution stuck to the original narrative, that Malik was spiraling, that his past had caught up to him, but the defense was no longer playing defense. Now they had leverage. Malik sat in court, watching it all unfold. The lies were starting to shake under their own weight. The jury hadn't even been selected yet, but cracks were showing. Vanessa avoided his eyes in the pretrial hearings. Kenya sat stiff, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Malik didn't smile, didn't smirk, he just waited. Because now, for the first time since the cuffs snapped shut, he had momentum. And the truth? The courtroom was heavy with silence. It had been over a year since Malik Carter had felt like a man. Now, wearing a borrowed gray suit, clean shave, and eyes that had aged more than his body, he sat next to Ms. Johnson, ready to face everything that tried to destroy him. Across the aisle sat Vanessa, Her hair was pinned, her blouse starched, but the bags under her eyes told a different story. Behind her, seated just out of the jury's line of vision, was Kenya. She wore a navy blazer, legs crossed, expression unreadable. The two women didn't speak, didn't touch, but the air between them was tense, heavy like a thunderstorm that hadn't broken yet. The prosecution went first. They painted Malik as a familiar figure, a man with a good face and bad habits, a former convict who had fooled his community with smiles and mentorship while secretly dealing again. They leaned on Vanessa's testimony, on the baggie, on the anonymous tip. They framed him as the perfect liar, believable, charming, and dangerous. Then Miss Johnson stood. She walked slowly, calmly. She didn't attack. She dismantled. She introduced the phone records. Call after call between Vanessa and Kenya, many made in the middle of the night, clustered around the date of the arrest. She played the surveillance footage, Kenya unlocking Malik's trunk with a key she wasn't supposed to have. She showed receipts from the burner phone, traced back to a prepaid card connected to Kenya's hospital account. Objections came. The judge allowed enough. Then came Kenya's cross-examination. She denied everything, said she never touched Malik's car, claimed she only wanted to protect Vanessa, but her answers cracked. Her timeline shifted. Her story changed twice within 10 minutes. "You're telling this jury," Miss Johnson said, "that you happened to have access to the defendant's vehicle days before drugs were found in that very car? I was just returning something Vanessa left, but you never told police that. You never mentioned it until today." "I didn't think it mattered." "Oh," Miss Johnson said, stepping forward, "it matters." Then came Vanessa. She took the stand slow, shoulders folded in. The courtroom held its breath. At first she repeated her story, hesitantly, said Malik had changed, said she didn't feel safe, said she never knew anything about the drugs. But Miss Johnson pressed. "You said you feared him, but you stayed." "I had nowhere else." "You moved in with Miss Rowe 2 weeks after the arrest. That's documented." Vanessa froze. "You said you didn't know about the drugs. Are you willing to swear that under oath?" "I." Vanessa paused. "I didn't know exactly what she was going to do. But you suspected?" A tear broke. Then another. "I didn't want this," Vanessa whispered. "I didn't ask her to do it, but I didn't stop her either." Gasps rippled across the gallery. "I thought maybe he was cheating. I thought maybe this would just expose him. But he wasn't cheating." "No," she whispered. "And you let him go to jail anyway?" Vanessa stared down at her lap. "I was scared, of losing everything, of being seen for who I really was." Miss Johnson let the silence hang. Then she nodded. No further questions. It took the jury 4.5 hours. When the 4 persons stood, the entire room went still. "On all counts," she said, "we find the defendant not guilty." There was no eruption, just a soft collective exhale, like the air itself had been holding its breath. Malik didn't celebrate. He didn't look at Vanessa. He didn't glance at Kenya. He just stood up, shoulders straight, head high, free. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. Reporters shouted his name. He didn't answer any of them. He walked past them like ghosts. Vanessa resigned from the hospital shortly after the trial. Kenya was arrested 3 months later for obstruction of justice and perjury. Her license was revoked pending investigation. Neither woman reached out. And Malik didn't care. He moved in with his aunt on the east side, picked up work at a hardware store, started helping out again at the rec center, quietly. He didn't talk about what happened, not in detail, not often. But when he did, he always said the same thing. They lied, and the lie almost worked. It was close. Freedom didn't feel like celebration. It felt like silence. Malik Carter woke up the morning after his release on a borrowed air mattress in his aunt's spare room. No parade, no headlines clearing his name, just the sound of birds in a neighborhood waking up like it always had. He sat by the window for hours, watching the world go on. Kids walked to school, neighbors watered their grass. Baton Rouge hadn't changed. But he had. He no longer felt the need to explain himself, no more trying to prove what kind of man he was. The people who mattered already knew. The ones who didn't, they never would. Trust didn't come back overnight. He flinched when people asked too many questions. He smiled, but never fully. He looked over his shoulder out of habit. But Malik worked, quietly. He helped his aunt fix up her fence, took the bus to work at a hardware store where no one asked about his past, and slowly the world began to open up again. He started mentoring again, just a few boys from the block. Nothing official, just time and advice and a basketball hoop. Some nights he'd sit alone and write. Not letters this time, stories, about betrayal, about survival, about how some people use love like a weapon. But he didn't write about revenge. That part of him was gone. He saw Vanessa once more, months later. She was getting into a car outside a grocery store. Their eyes met briefly. She looked tired, smaller, like someone carrying the weight of everything she'd tried to bury. He didn't wave, didn't speak, just nodded once, and then he walked away. Some stories end in blood, others in fire. But Malik's story? It ended in a whisper, one that still echoes every time someone asks, how could she do that? Because sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones who fear you the most. And fear, real fear, makes monsters out of anyone.